Doctor of Psychology, PhD, is a neuroscientist and a psychologist. She worked for 18 years as faculty at the University of Maryland. She founded the School of Emotion. She is a fifth-generation Spiritist. Dr. Anseloni is the founder and former president from 1998 to 2012 of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. She also founded and is the president of the Spiritist Society of Virginia and the Spiritist Group of Washington, D.C. She is a Spiritist medium, fraternal counselor, and coordinates spiritual treatments and workshops in the U.S. and worldwide. She is also the co-author of the book, The New Generation with Chivaldo Franco, and the editor-in-chief of the Spiritist Magazine. Dr. Anseloni also co-founded Kardec Radio, and if you have never listened to this, I listen to it every morning. It is so wonderful. You do such a, and I think all of the speakers in this room have participated at one time or another, right? Yeah, very active. So please listen to it. It's wonderful. Where was I? Oh, in the International Coalition of Spiritist Support for Parents. Very good. So please welcome Dr. Vanessa Anseloni.
After all of these talks, culminating with the ending of Julio, I really feel it's like celebrating. You know, when we were preparing to come here, talking to our spirit friend, Mentor Joseph said, Vanessa, there are many reasons to celebrate when you go to this event. Celebrating that we are not any longer in the valley of suicides. Seriously. We made it. Seriously, I'm not saying you, but we made it out and we are here. We reincarnated. So it's hope for all the discarnate spirits who are either brought in here and they are watching it, or they are also watching through the broadcast. Because we know in the spiritual realm, the multimedia resources is fantastic. And whenever we have such events, it's broadcast to the spiritual realm. And they can hear us saying, you know, we've been there, done that. Now we're here. So don't feel guilty, because that doesn't solve any problem. Just shake it up. Should we sing, Isabella? Shake it up, shake it up. I'm not a fan, I don't listen to that, but I know that rhyme exists. Shake it up. And through shake it up, we are here. We are here. And that's great. You know, being real, we are humans. As Julio said, we can't keep ourselves in hypocrisy. We can't. We've been like that for centuries. Why? Because deep inside we have the divine ideal. We all do. But we can't get there yet. But Spiritism comes and calls us for coherence. As Adriana reminded us, we're immortal. So what's the point of having 10 cars when we can have one and pay less gas, less taxes? Talking about taxes, prepare yourselves for the journey of the years to come. Seriously. Yeah, that we know is going to happen. And we're not being pessimistic, but being realistic, as Julia reminded us. And Marcelo, when he brought to us the beautiful discussion about our feelings, real feelings. People nowadays say they're stressed. There is no generation that is more stressed out than ours, more than our parents. My mom is here, God bless her heart. She's here at a very crucial time for us, moving homes, etc. And her generation has never been as stressed as ours. What happened? But what is stress? So, you know, I could bring lots of slides, but Mentor Joseph said, this time we need to feel it, not the stress. But to feel what it is that goes through our body, where it is, so we really come to a deeper realization. Quiz: is stress at all bad? We think it is, right? Really, it is not, right? No. Why? Well, depends on the definition. So, number one, stress is the physiological response to a threat, to a stimulus that is calling us to change. Is that bad? No. When you see the beautiful National Geographic, documentaries showing like beautiful lion, for us it's beautiful, running after the bunny, so beautiful, so cute, because we are not the bunny. But what is happening to the bunny? The bunny is stressed, but that's wonderful. He better be, or else. So what does it mean? It means that the beautiful physiology we have is prepared to preserve ourselves. Law of preservation. We have a beautiful anatomy and a very functioning anatomy, our physiology, to respond to this stimulus right here, right now. When we came to this room, it can be quite stressful if you don't know anybody familiar to you. But when you came here, you thought, this person who is a friend of mine is going to be there, that person who I may know is going to be there. Relaxed. It's going to be a retreat. But if you don't know anybody, it can be quite stressful. It can be good, so you pay attention. You're not getting yourself into trouble. But it can be bad if it prevents you from meeting other people and becoming friends with people that can make a true transformation in our lives. So what is happening to the physical body when we have the acute stress? So from now on, we're going to use acute versus chronic. Acute stress is fantastic. Chronic stress is a problem. Like, for example, a few pounds here and there. That's one. Some people are like, Vanessa said, stress. That's it. More pounds because of chronic stress? Yes, that's what it is. It happens. Yes, obesity is also a byproduct of chronic stress. But what exactly happens? So let's feel it, okay? Let's feel it. In our brains, the command, we have structures. We talk about mainly the HPA axis. If I show you a picture, okay, it's beautiful, but if you don't feel it in your body, you're going to feel it's something that doesn't belong to you. Today, we want to touch it. So in your head, touch your head, please. Maybe you only do it when you wash your hair. Or comb it, hopefully. Or not. But there, inside, oh, beautiful brain, love the brain. If I could kiss the brain, kiss it inside, almost like in the middle of it, there are structures in the limbic systems and the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland. They recognize right away when something is threatening. You're there relaxed at your work, and the boss comes in, the lion. Now we're the bunny, he's a lion. And we're like, turn off the cell phone, right? Turn off, hide it. And then, what is happening to our body right there? Our cortical areas right here, the discernment areas, the prefrontal cortex, are telling us we don't need that higher functioning, we don't, but at more human levels we do. Animals don't need it. It's more instinctive. But for our humans, we may need it because these are fancier scenarios, more complex. So we discern the hypothalamus, then the pituitary gland. They send a cascade of molecules, hormones that are going to tell the body, be on alert, be on alert, it's like red flag. Be on alert, danger, 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 danger. And you're like out of breath and almost, Christine, panic. Yeah, it is. It is like that. And then it sends a message quickly to the adrenal glands. Where are the adrenal glands? Right here. They sit on the top of your kidneys. Feel it. Feel it. So you talk to them. We need to talk to the adrenal glands. Hold on. You're too stressed out. It's not me, it's you. But feel it. Hold it here. Yeah, poor adrenal glands. What are we doing with them? You know, when I went to my homeopathic doc, he gave me adrenal support. He's like, adrenal support? I need to support my adrenals? I thought they were already supported by my kidneys. But deep inside, that's what's happening. And that's another form of suicide, unfortunately. When we allow chronic stress to go by for too long. Because sometimes it happens. When you have a baby, it's fantastic. But the body is screaming like, go to sleep, can't. Go to sleep, can't. Eat, can't. And anything can't. And the body's like, ah. And then I say, God, you created us like this. What is the pathway to be less stressed? Is there a pathway? Yes, there is. So when we understand that this body is kindly putting us to this sign, exit, it's flight or fight, fight or flight, run away, it's dangerous. But when it happens every day, for nothing, for little things, because the way we take things, like perspective in life, then we start putting ourselves in critical status. Can that lead us to difficult scenarios like the ones that Julio described to us? Lead us to addictions? To anything else? Yes. So I remember a case that I got to know when we were preparing for the second symposium in New York. We were still in Baltimore. And you know, when we are preparing yourself, it's not only the slides, or it's like your nails for the women, maybe. And I was conflicted, like, should I do my nails? Like, really? That's so vain. But you know, I don't want to bother people like with my, you know, ugly nails. So I want to go to, I said, mentors, can I, Vanessa, self-love, remember, self-love is the foundation. And I said, okay, I will. Forgive me, but I will. I will take that hour just to do that. So I stopped by at the nail salon, and the mentors taught me a lesson, that we can serve anywhere, but mostly when we are loving ourselves. That's where it all begins. I was there seated, and then this woman, adorable, very open. She started talking and asking, and then, oh, and what do you do? And I said what I did. And he said, oh, can I tell you my story? Yeah, sure, maybe. And you can't say psychologist or neuroscientist. They think you're going to operate the brain and extract any problems we wish. I cannot do even with mine. But I was there, and she was telling me, it was a very sad story of her brother. Her brother was suffering a lot of stress at work. He was a contractor, And by the pressure of paying the bills, he accepted multiple tasks and he injured his back. Pretty bad. He went to the doctor, and as Julio described, what do? There are two things that traditional medicine cannot help at all: pain and stress. They can't. Traditional. Only the complementary medicine has solutions for it. So they look at him and said, Vicodin, Percocet, and children, wife, bills to be paid. He was the provider, and a lot of stress. You know, the business of construction can be quite demanding. The people in this room who work on this, they know very well. And he kept taking the medicine for the pain, kept working, etc., until he became addicted. Mixing with alcohol. His behavior changed. Yes, it changed our mood. Why? I remember when Virginia was born, it was through C-section. And I remember calling the obstetrician the next day and saying, look, I cannot take these opioids. They are killing me and I want to breastfeed her. They are activating my opioid receptors. And I said that because, so she knew she was talking to somebody. I did my PhD thesis on this, precisely on opioid drugs. And I know what they cause, the anxiety and the extreme stress, etc. I said, you know, I'm out of here with this. Give me something else, but I don't want opioids. And then this man didn't know of it. And that's the problem. People don't know what they're taking. Now we have Google. Dr. Google. Poor doctors in the world. I told my students all along, I said, you know, be careful because Dr. Google can give your patients more information than you can give them. So you better be better than Dr. Google. Because sometimes physicians are playing just like technicians. And that's very unfortunate. I'm not saying you go self-medicate. No. But get to know what you're taking before you take it. Trust your physician as long as you also trust what you're taking, because the body is yours, not the physician's. And there are many physicians nowadays who not necessarily, and I say this and I'll repeat at University of Maryland 1,000,000 times, physicians nowadays are more technicians than actual doctors. And we are only going to change it when we agree to it. As Julio said, enough is enough. We need to change our healthcare system completely, from patient management to drug administration to any prescription. So this man was only receiving painkillers, and the doctor didn't care that he felt more anxious, so he needed an anxiolytic. He was feeling depressed, so they gave him antidepressant. He was taking the whole combo, not knowing and not ever paying attention to the fact that he was changing his behavior before his family, he's destroying his marriage. To the point one day, he couldn't work any longer. The bills were coming into the house, and the wife had to take care of the children. The stress was escalating. She opened the door and saw him laying down on the couch. He was feeling like not himself at all. He was drinking, he took some of the opioid pills. The wife said, enough. Took the children to her mom's. The next day, she goes back to pick up something. He's still on the couch, dead. He actually killed himself. His sister was in front of me. She was devastated. It happened like 2 weeks before we actually met. And she was puzzled. She was like, I can't believe it. And she said, the funny part is now, because of the tragedy, all the people, the creditors, are now excusing the family from paying the bills. And she said, it's great, but at the same time I wonder if a tragedy needs to happen so people take action. And that's real. Sometimes we're in front of people who are overwhelmed and swamped, and nobody takes action. We often ask people to be angels when we are trying to become humans. In the book Living in Spring by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, the Brazilian medium, there is a message that is, by the way, wrongly translated in the title, because it's not royal humanity, it's real humanity. It's not royal. There's no royal humanity. It's real humanity. Jesus came to the earth to show us the pathway to be real human beings. We are leaving the pathway of being more animalistic. Now we need to put mind over matter. Mind over matter. Consciousness in everything we do. Even if people don't understand, Marcelo said, that's their problem, not ours. Not ours. Life will tell in its long run. A tree, the difference between two trees, you only see when they grow and the fruits come out. Time. People will see at the right time. It's a matter of time. But we need to do what's best for us. So when chronic stress mounts, we really change our mood. That's one of the things. Our talk is about how it affects the physical and the mental. Of course, we're including the spiritual because we're spirits. We cannot restrict ourselves to the physical. The mental is the spirit. So, what happens? We change the mood. But the question is, in that scenario of the man who committed suicide, who was changing his mood, was it all about the pills he was ingesting? We know it. It's what? The spirit factor. The spirit factor. We're spirits. When we go to the Genesis by Kardec, chapter 14, we learn about the law of fluids. Fluids in Spiritism mean, I would say this roughly, I know at high scholarly discussions in Spiritism we would discuss the words, but fluids equal to energy, just to be more straightforward in a way. And Kardec talks about the fact that as we think, we're manipulating as if we have hands. These universal cosmic fluids, like the clay of the universe, the Play-Doh that God gives to us. So we are co-creators from each and every thought to each and every feeling, each and every word, each and every action. And then we create thought forms. What are the thought forms we're creating right now? Does this room feel better now than when we entered earlier in the morning? It felt fantastic. Now we're feeling almost like in heaven. Especially after Castro Alves stopped by. Through Julio. Right? Each and every one building the vibration, and we're like, can we bring a little bit of it to our homes? Can we? No, we must. It's not a choice. I mean, we have to. So when we enter chronic stress, we're making connections. You're desperate about the results of the election? Hopefully by now, not anymore. But don't. Because if we do get desperate, we enter a vibration that is going to make us connect with every single mind who is desperate in this world. And then we all will be in trouble. We can't. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't drive out darkness with darkness. We need light. Jesus never knocked on the door of Caesar to fire him. Say, you're fired. You've never heard of it? Me either. Jesus said, leave it alone. Give Caesar what is Caesar's and give God what is God's. So what do? What we can do and what we have to do. Not saying we're just simply gonna condone, but we're gonna have to do what we are demanding on the politicians. Their selfishness, the question, am I? They are so egotistic, maybe I am too. Let us be less selfish, less egotistic, and we're helping the world. When we enter that frequency of chronic stress, not only we're creating an acidic environment in our bloodstream that is food for diseases, physically speaking, but we're also vibratorily entering connections that are very harmful. Who is in your network? Who do you want to call every day? Who do you want to listen to every day? It's our choice. I have a choice. Password out. Even Virginia can get it out. Go there, context. I want to call Josara. Hi, Josara. Let's do the good work together. Right? It's good to have you here, Josara.
Not the best time to be talking over the phone.
Yeah. Good job, Josara. Putting order where it needs to be done, exactly. But we make a choice. We make a choice. And we need to make conscious choices. All of our lives as immortal spirits, we have been making unconscious choices. Like magnets, André Louis says in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship, which is not translated yet, but it will soon come true. We attract what we emit. We attract what we emit. Law of the mental field. So if I decide to be under the blanket of the cascade of physiological events also that happen to me when I am under chronic stress, I will suffer the consequences. And what's going to happen next? I'll be under greater stress. Because when I connect to other minds, we exchange fluids, energies, vibrations. Can we feel it? Let's not forget, as Jesus told Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a man who knew a lot about the scriptures, the law of Moses. And he recognized, because he studied a lot, that Jesus was the Messiah described by Isaiah. So he said, I know you are the Messiah, but I have studied the scriptures all along, and I don't quite understand why I still can't grasp how to get to this kingdom of God. He was a good student. He was studying. He was devoting himself, but he had a fair question. Jesus very kindly replied to him, Nicodemus, it's valid. It's not enough, though, to know the scriptures. You forgot to feel them. That's when we become more coherent. The distance between studying and practice is done by the pathway of feelings. How do we feel the scriptures? I asked Mentor Joseph the other day, studying, and I said, is there a method? And he said, yes. When you are reading, if you stop and ask personal questions, not for the neighbor, this would be good for my neighbor. I wish that person were here today to hear this. Maybe it was perfect for that person. I'm gonna record it and forward and share on Facebook. I know the good spirits are sending it for them as well. It may well be, but we are here. So it's for us, first and foremost. How do I do this feeling thing that Jesus said? We can't forget it anymore. It's been 2,000 years. And we're still forgetting it. There are people who claim to be Christians and they are pro-racism. No, they are not Christians. As long as I know the definition of being Christian. The definition that I know does not match. There are people who say they're spiritists and they are creating plots against other spiritists. I'm like, no. That's not the spiritism I know of. It's not coherent. So, how do I feel it? Stop. It says in the book Living Spring that Jesus came as our guide and model to show us. That's how we prevent suicide. We need a guide. We need a model. Jussar is going to talk about it at the end. With the guide and model, we can do anything. But he is a model, not to become angel. That's not the goal. But for us to become human beings. So then I ask myself, that's the feeling part of it. Am I not human then? According to the studies of Spiritism, we are learning to be real human beings. We're learning. We're in the learning process. We are to become. And Andrea Lewis in the book Evolution into Worlds repeats to us that the pathway only happens through effort and repetition. That's why we need many reincarnations. Effort and repetition, repetition, after repetition, boom, we're human. But to be human is not to be an angel. When I see Chico Xavier, human. Oh, he was an angel. Human. That's human. Angel is something we don't know. Jesus, human. Angel, something we don't know. According to the Spirit, Emmanuel says angel is something we don't know. Human. When people say to me, Vanessa, Jesus, the bar is too high. I said, well, we better get it. So get a stool. Or something, because we better get there. That's our goal. So let us observe the GPS and see it's saying, turn here. Turn there, you turn, and if we don't, we'll be in trouble. Recalculating, many lives, recalculating. Seriously, recalculating many lives, like the case Julio brought to us. The boy who had 10 reincarnations committing suicide, so they amputate his legs. He needs to stay here and learn that this is for real. Because God loves him and he needs to learn the value of this life. He has a loving mother. God is so good. committed suicide for 10 lives, and then God says, I'm going to give you a loving mother, but lots of limitations, so you learn to stay still. Stay still. Don't run away. No exit. Face it. So how do we face it? That's the trick in life. Out of chronic stress. What do? Thank God Dr. Herbert Benson came to Harvard University many decades ago. As a missionary of science, Dr. Herbert Benson was the first scientist ever to dedicate his life to understanding that we also have a natural mechanism in our body to trigger the opposite of the stress response, the relaxation response, but nobody talks about it. He coined the term decades ago, and we keep talking about stress and stress and stress and stress and stress, but we can trigger relaxation. How do we do it? He has 2 interviews at Kardec Radio. We can still go there, kardekradio.com, search bar, Herbert Benson, relaxation response, and listen to him saying what he found out regarding this pathway. Because Jesus knew it all, and he taught us. And the spirits have been teaching us throughout many different messages. I can trigger the opposite of the stress response, the relaxation response, through breathing consciously. How can I become a pure spirit if I don't know how to breathe consciously? It's going to be hard. It's basic. We need to learn it. That's how we stop the chronic stress. For a while. So we learn to breathe in deeply, inflating from the lower to the higher abdomen, holding for a few seconds, breathing out slowly. You don't need to do this the whole day, go to a monastery or take a retreat. Don't take a vacation because it doesn't help. People take vacations and they come back, they're still stressed. Because stress depends on the stimulus. It's still there. If you don't change the way you see the stimulus, it's not going to change the response. Christine said it all at the beginning. It's stressful here. Okay, let me change the way I'm seeing it. And then my response is going to change. How do I begin it? Practically speaking. Breathing. You know, when we say prayers, we are automatically in a new breathing rhythm. So prayers, validated by Harvard team, prayer, meditation, visualization, reading a good book, can be triggers of the relaxation response. And then we change the game of chronic stress. Breathing in and out and changing it. Changing the perspective, because if we don't, one way or another we'll find it. It's when Humberto de Campos, through the hands of Chico Xavier, wrote a story of a woman. She was 32. It's in the book Estante da Vida, maybe Shelf of Life, I don't know, when it comes in English. And he says, this woman was 32 years old. She was married and had a son. She loved her husband dearly, but one day she found out her husband was in love with another woman. She drank poison, killed herself. And then Humberto de Campos interviews her and asks many questions, kindly, so we can learn here. And she says, you know, she describes the pain, and we learn that discarnate spirits also can be under stress. It's not a thing of the physical realm alone. And Kardec explains that in the Spirit's book when he talks about how we break down the stimulus, the sensory, the perception of the spirits. And we can feel pain as discarnate spirits as well. And she describes, I was feeling a lot of pain. Same pain that I felt when I was incarnated. And there's the whole explanation, to the point she comes to the most important realization of her life ever. She said, I was trying to run away from the reality that I had to face. And now, the woman that I hated and the man that I was upset with and wanted to punish with my own suicide, now I had to come back because of my son, learn to love her, and now she's a dear sister to my heart. Now she's committed to helping the very people she ran away from. But she suffered a lot to get there. And the question for us today is, why do we have to choose to run away if we have enough evidence that if we stay put and trusting and faithful, we can reconfigure the information that is brought into us and find a new solution? If and only if we have a new reference. The guiding model of all times. Whenever we feel that the times are pounding on our head, asking too much of us, feeling overwhelmed, in despair, etc., what do? To wrap it up, I think we can only feel it in a dialogue that I'll never forget when I read it first. Because it was through that dialogue that I first understood who Jesus really is as our new reference. Many people are suffering nowadays depression and anxiety and sadness and rejection. It was Bartholomew, one of the unknown disciples of Jesus, because nobody talks about him ever. But Umberto de Campos, in his 30 chapters in the book Good News, he rescues that treasure of his presence and also his dialogue with Jesus. Bartholomew was the whole profile of a depressed person. Under a lot of stress, he lost his mother, the only person who understood him. His father didn't understand him at all. His brothers were, bullying him because he now was taking a new pathway through Jesus, with Jesus. It was when he was sad and kindly the Master approached him and said, "What's happening, Bartholomew?" Jesus also approaches us very personally every day, but we don't realize it. He approached him and said, "What's happening to you?" And Bartholomew said, "My mom is dead. My dad is always saying I'm gonna amount to nothing. My brothers are bullying me. My colleagues at work are always cursing me. I think your message is fantastic, but I really don't know how to cross the river of my depression, of my stress." And Jesus very kindly said, "Bartholomew, have you heard of good news that do not bring joy? I brought you the good news, and all those who follow it shall have as trademark 3 elements: joy, courage, and hope. For all of us at the current times, in this great time of trials and transitions for us, joy, courage, and hope. Joy is understood, hope is understood, but what we lack nowadays to prevent suicide, direct or indirect, and to prevent great tragedies, is courage. So we're going to wrap up with a reflection. As a teacher, allow me. I'm not teaching these teachings, but just I'm the assistant teacher. A quiz, 0 to 10. What is the level of your courage?
10. For me, it's 10.
Let's not forget that courage is one of the 3 pillars of being a follower of the good news. If we want to prevent suicide, we really need also to have courage. May God bless us all. Thank you.